Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's seminar about IT jobs with less coding. So we'll give one more minute for people to join and then we'll get started. Meanwhile, I have posted a registration link in the chat window. So feel free to register there. That way we'll have the information who has attended. There was a small confusion in the meeting link. So people are joining in the old bridge, so we are pulling them to the new bridge. So just give them one more minute and then we'll get started. Meanwhile, why don't we have a quick introduction about each person so that we can break the ice and it makes the conversation easier. Why don't you go with Jhansi first?
Good morning, all. So my name is Jhansi, and I'm from Hyderabad. I worked with ICICI Bank for 9 years, and then I'm trying to move as a business analyst. I was briefly with Infosys for a period of 4 months, and then I pursued my master's in UK, and now I'm here in Canada, looking for BA opportunities.
Then this is a right webinar for you.
Very much, yeah. Looking forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know Abdul Rahman. Is that our same Abdul Rahman or a different one?
Hello, Mr. Rambabu. I don't think we've met before.
Okay.
Uh, I'm also from Hyderabad. I've got close to 25 years of experience. I'm a PMP certified, working with a bank in downtown Toronto. Uh, but yeah, I'm trying to see if I can make a shift into IT. Uh, I hope I'm able to get some good information from this webinar.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so how we structure this webinar is first of all, I will give a quick introduction about coding and intensity of coding required in the IT jobs and what do you mean by less coding or more coding. And then I will take questions from each one of you. So it is more of an interactive session. I won't be the one who will be talking for the entire 1 hour of the time. So it is more of an interaction. So I advise each one of you to open up and ask the questions you have. So I'm giving a pre-alert so that you can come up with your questions. That way I don't put you on the spot. So this is a structure I am planning. So feel free to be more interactive. And if there is a possibility for you to, uh, switch on the cameras, that is even better, but that's not mandatory. Okay, so let's get the webinar started. About coding. So IT industry is more of a very friendly industry where even the people who has IT education and IT experience in the past can work in IT. At the same time, people who have non-IT education and non-IT experience can also move to IT. So IT attracts each and every person as long as you are able to deliver. So there is nothing like non-IT people cannot come into IT or non-IT education. People who has done non-IT education cannot move into IT. Everybody can come into IT. So that is number one point that you have to understand. So it is a myth that people in non-IT cannot move to IT or people who have non-IT education cannot move to IT education. Okay, this to underline this point. And number two is it is a myth that people think that in IT we can get past without any coding. It is absolutely wrong. If it is an IT, you will have to do coding in one way or the other. Okay, except you are at a very top level persons like VPs or senior project managers or project managers. But whoever is an individual contributor, uh, if you are into IT, you definitely need to do coding. Okay, this is also one point that you need to understand. But the level of coding differs from each role to each role. For example, some roles might have very highly intensive coding. Some IT roles might have very less coding. Some other IT roles might have very least amount of coding. but coding is inevitable. So if you think that you can survive in the IT industry without coding, then it is absolutely wrong. That only the intensity of the coding will differ. So this is also another point that you should understand. Now, I wanted to know, like in this webinar audience, how many are from non-IT background, which includes non-IT experience and also non-IT education. That way I can frame my talk better. So who are raising hands? People who are from non-IT, right? So let me see who are from non-IT. Oh, so there are so many people who are from non-IT. Okay, good. Yeah. So since many of you are from non-IT background, again, I wanted to reiterate, if you wanted to come into IT, you can definitely come into IT. But if you think that you can survive in IT without coding, then it is a myth. That is the reason in my flyer, I kept the statement IT jobs with less coding instead of IT jobs with no coding, because IT job with zero coding is impossible. Okay. Now, what jobs in IT have very high coding? Okay, very high coding typically are software developer jobs like Java developer, .NET developer, web developer, full stack developer, Python developer, or a React developer. See, any developer position will have a very intense coding activity involved to survive in the job. So I guess since most of you are from non-IT background, I think those are the roles which you should definitely avoiding. Okay, any developer role non-IT folks should avoid if you are apprehensive of coding. But if there are many people whom I have seen, they can still do coding when once they get trained. But if you have a coding phobia, then you should definitely avoid developer roles or software engineer roles. Okay, number one. So I'll give the percentages. Like intense coding means you will have to code 70 to 80% of the time in the entire role. Okay, and there are some jobs which have kind of medium coding. For example, UI UX developer will have medium coding. When I say medium coding, I can give the percentage like maybe like 50 to 60%, or maybe the window is 40 to 60%. So UI UX developer is one role which has medium coding. um, Salesforce developer will have medium coding, and also some of the roles like cloud developer or DevOps developer will have medium coding. There are some other roles like embedded systems developer, they will have medium coding. So these are some of the niche areas where you have very medium coding. Okay, now let's look at the roles which have less coding, which is the most important part for all of you. The roles which have less coding, again, I'm talking to this on the Canada perspective. So in Canada, the following roles will have less coding. Okay, one is business analyst, two is data analyst, three is cloud engineer, four DevOps engineer, five Salesforce developer, Salesforce administrator, six um, some parts of front end developer, they will have less coding, and six, there are so many, but I'm giving you some of the items. Cyber security engineer will have less coding and more of the concepts. And there are some other niche areas like API developer and etc., where there are very less coding also. Um, People think that a role like QA will have zero coding or less coding, but it is wrong. When you say QA, in manual QA, you have very, very less coding, but in automation QA, you will have medium coding, meaning at least 40 to 60% of the coding is involved in writing test scripts and integrate the test environment to the software. So if you are thinking that if you wanted to escape coding, you can become a QA, then it is absolutely wrong. But you can argue that you can become a manual QA, but the number of jobs in manual QA are very, very less. So come out of that myth that in QA the coding is very, very less, because you need to do automation. You need to do slightly a medium type of coding. And people also ask me, as a business analyst, do I still need to code? Yes, you still need to code. You need to write small queries to do the database testing. You need to write small scripts to organize the Jira boards. You need to write small coding when you have to do customer acceptance testing. So slight coding is involved. That's why I kept that under the bucket of less coding, but it is not with zero coding. So this is some of the myths that I wanted you to understand and get rid of, so that you have a clear idea of what happens inside an IT industry. So now I ask the questions on this part, like if you guys have any questions on the intensity of the coding in the roles, feel free to ask. Or we can go in a round robin way. We'll start with Aziz. Aziz, do you have any specific question on the intensity of the coding? Or if you can have any question, you can feel free to ask related to this topic. Or if anybody has any question, you can raise your hand. Yes, Saroj?
Yes, thank you for having me here. I wanted to know, for someone coming from a healthcare background who's sort of never studied this stuff, but I have a family who is in this, what would you recommend would be the starting point, or is that something you're going to touch on later? For coding, that is.
Okay, for a person who is in IT, healthcare industry, right? You are in the healthcare industry in the past?
Right now, yes.
Okay, so for you, the role which has very less coding is a data analyst. Because when you come from healthcare industry, what happens is you will be working on a lot of healthcare analytics part, which means displaying the graphs, coming up with the analysis on the drug data or the patient data or the medical history data. Whatever is the healthcare data, you will work on analytics of it. So the appropriate role would be a data analyst, which has a very less coding. You just need to know a little bit of Python and a little bit of SQL queries. That's it. And every other tool is a more of a user interface driven tool. But from the coding perspective, data analyst is an appropriate role with less coding for people from the healthcare background.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Zakira?
Hi, Rambabu. How are you?
Good, good.
Actually, thank you for letting me in. I want to ask you, like, I have accounting background.
Hmm.
So if I want to, get involved in IT, where should I start from? Like, what is my, should I go to any college or do any diploma from there or further?
No, no.
Yeah.
As I said, anybody from non-IT background can come to IT. They don't need to do any certifications, or they don't need to do any courses or graduation or a post-graduation. Those are absolutely not necessary. So since you are from an accounting background, for you, any IT role would do good, as long as you get trained and learn the subject and then understand and try to talk about it or do some hands-on practice on it. For accounting purpose, if you are an accountant in the past or accounting background in the past, You can pick up any technology. You can, if you are, as I said, if you are apprehensive of coding, you can pick up any technology from number one, Salesforce side, data analyst side, or a data engineering side, or a cloud engineering side, or a DevOps side. These are all some of the areas where you will have less coding for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Parthasarthi,
Hi,
you have raised it.
thank you. Thank you for letting me talk. I am from supply chain management actually. I work in an air conditioning organization.
Mhm.
So I basically plan for the parts. So I don't know what kind of role I will get there. If you can tell me
For,
what will be.
for people in supply chain management, um, the appropriate role would be either a Salesforce administrator role or a data analyst role. Because as a supply chain management person, you'll be interacting with a lot of you know softwares which has a lot of workflows, where you'll be seeing the status of the shipment across each area. So the most
Yes.
appropriate one would be a CRM side. So in CRM we have Salesforce CRM, which is quite good for non-IT folks. So you can pick up a Salesforce admin role, and if you add a small Salesforce development also on top of it, you would be a hot cake in the market. If Salesforce development is not a liking for you, then go for data analyst. In data analyst also, which will have less coding, and people with supply chain management background can easily get into it and understand, and you can quickly get a job in 2 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Ataur Rahman.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, does age matter, like if you want to switch careers?
No,
Mhm.
no, I have seen people in one of the teams, client teams that I work with. One of the guy was 85 years old, and
Oh,
he was a very hardcore developer. So
mhm.
in IT, especially in Canada, and again, I'm telling you this is from Canada IT market perspective. In Canadian IT market, age doesn't matter. So even if you are 22 years old or 52 years old, it doesn't matter. I won't say 85 is a classical case, but I just gave you an example that even people with a slightly older age can also get into IT, deliver. It is at your will and wish to how much technology you can grasp and how much technology you can deliver. So as long as you are able to deliver in the, I mean, as long as you are able to answer all the questions in the interview, they don't look at age. Especially in the Canadian employment law, there is a very specific rule that as per law, there is equal employment opportunity. So in that, they should not reject employment for you based on your age or your sex or your race or your nationality or your color. So in all these criteria, they should not reject an employment. So even if you are 55, 65 years old, you can gladly apply, and then you can, as long as you clear the interview, you can get the job. Age doesn't matter.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Ashish Reddy?
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, I just want to know about data engineering roles, how the coding will be involved in it, and what percentage will be involved.
See, data engineering is all about taking data, raw data, and clean it and engineer it and transform it and create a data set. This is what a typical data engineer does. So in this whole process, the amount of coding that is required for you will be very less. All you need to know is little bit of Python scripting. Okay. When I say little bit, it doesn't mean at a basic level. It means at slightly more than basic and less than intermediate. And whichever cloud you are doing data engineering on, that cloud you have to know that kind of a scripting. For example, if you are using Azure cloud, then you should be knowing little bit of PowerShell scripting and YAML scripting. But if you are using AWS data engineering services, then you have to know a little bit of AWS CLI scripting. And the common coding that is needed for any data job is writing SQL queries. That is inevitable. So that I think you should be knowing. So data engineering is a very, very hot cake in the Canadian market right now, and also very highly paying. The minimum salary I have seen in data engineering is close to 85K plus, and it has less coding also. Okay, so don't confuse data engineering with data science. Data science has a lot of coding, mathematics knowledge, Python, advanced Python needed, but data engineering has very less coding, and it is a friendly technology for non-IT folks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Azizuddin, like anybody have
Hello,
any question, feel
I'm
free to
audible.
raise your hand.
Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
yeah, you're audible.
Uh, Actually, I want to know which course is better for the people coming from the construction background. People are recommending me going to the testing or DevOps. I'm just a bit confused which course should I take in and what skill I should learn.
So if you are from construction background, then the roles that I can suggest you is becoming a project coordinator. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
in project coordinator, you can try to become a civil side project coordinator or an IT side project coordinator. So the industry will differ, but project coordinator as such is a very generic role which can fit into any domain or any industry. I have some of the classical cases where people from either the civil education or a civil experience in the past, they have pursued project coordinator roles, and they were quite successful in getting jobs in banks and other IT companies. That
Mm-hmm.
is that is number one. And number two, as I said, you can pick up any technology uh, which has less coding, and mm, and pursue the technology for your future career. But the preferred one would be for a civil person, a project coordinator role or a project manager role or have a PMP would be an appropriate one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, before I forget, in the chat, I have posted a form that you should be filling. It is just a formality for filling your information to know who has registered for the webinar. We are coming up with more tighter process to to formally register and attend the webinar. But feel free to open that form and fill in your data. Yeah, Saroj.
Yes, I actually had two questions that are coming up from the discussion.
Yeah.
One of the questions is around education. So you had mentioned to someone that there is no need to go back to college or university to receive some sort of diploma. So how does one get started? For example, if we were to look into the Python scripting, where do we start from? What kind of certification do we go for?
That is number one. What is the
That
number?
is my second question is while someone is getting started, could they keep a full-time job? So for example, with me, can I keep working in healthcare and devote some time part-time to this while I learn is or even get started working? Is that possible, or do you need to go full force, full-time?
Okay, so for question number one, whether do we need any formal education to come into IT or formal certifications to come into IT? So the answer is no. You don't need a formal education, formal IT education to come into IT. You don't need certifications to come into IT. All you need to do is pick up a technology and get trained in that technology, and try to see which role you are planning to target, and then prepare for that role, and then attend interviews and get the job. Doing certifications is not mandatory for any IT job except for a project manager job where PMP is a mandatory certification. but and also some certifications are mandatory for security level jobs, meaning IT security level jobs. But otherwise, for all other IT jobs, you don't necessarily need a certification. But generally, I advise people to go for certification, because if you do certification, it will psychologically increase our confidence levels. Like, oh, I'm certified in XYZ, which means if you're certified, you will feel that you can deliver better than others. And you will have the difference that this guy is non-certified and I am certified. So that will give you a slightly edge, but it is not mandatory to have IT education or IT certifications to enter into IT. That is answer for the first question. So does that answer your question, or do you have any?
That answers it. Thank you.
And second one, can I continue to do my full-time job and devote some time to, get trained into one of the IT role and then get into the IT? It is possible, but not advisable. Okay, it is possible because if you are very well determined after spending 8 to 10 hours in your full-time job, since there are 24 hours, if you are able to devote 3 to 4 hours of time in learning anything about IT role or getting trained in IT role, people do it. But why it is not advisable? It is not advisable because after working for 8 to 10 hours in a full-time job, you will be physically very tired, mentally also very tired. So even if you spend time in reading or practicing some stuff, the amount of grasping that you can do is relatively lesser than devoting the whole time on learning that stuff. So the answer to this question is it is possible, but not advisable. My suggestion would be, if you are in a full-time job, then convert it to part-time, like 3 to 4 hours of time for job, and then devote at least 5 to 6 hours of time every day on learning the stuff, getting training, doing hands-on practice. That way you can learn everything faster and you can get job very, very faster. But if you are
Thank
doing a full-time job, and if you spend about a couple of hours every day, the time it takes to get an IT job will be very long.
mm.
So you might not have the same motivation levels for the whole period. Uh, the motivation levels in month one would be very high, but in month two, it will be very low, because when you reach month two, the amount of knowledge you gained in month one is very less. So I have seen a lot of people dropping out from job search who are doing full-time or part-time jobs, compared to the people who has devoted a very good amount of time in learning.
Thank you.
And also when it comes to the math, let me tell you some math. For example, if you are doing a full-time or a part-time job, let's say minimum wage or a $20 kind of a wage, then you will make about maybe like 2 to 3 thousand a month. And uh, let's say from day one till the time you get an IT job, if you are searching for IT job while you are doing a full-time or part-time job, it will take about 8 months of a time, from the time day one till the time you get an offer letter. So 8 into 3, 8 3 is at 24,000 is what you will make in those 8 months. Let's take the case of a scenario where you quit part-time or full-time jobs, but you only work on the weekends. So how much time do you take to get into an IT job? Maybe 4 months. So how much time you will save? 4 months. In those 4 months, how much you can gain? Maybe like an average 5 to 6 thousand, or maybe like 5,000. So you can make 20,000 ahead of time. So this is what from the math perspective, this is what I would suggest.
Thank you for answering those questions.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yes, Syed.
Hi, thank you for this webinar. So I have a background in political science,
Mm-hmm.
and right now I'm a market research analyst.
Mm-hmm.
And for the past 3 months, I've been preparing to make a transition to IT. So I got Udemy certificates in Python and SQL.
Mm-hmm.
But in my job search, I'm having a lot of trouble landing a job.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like everyone is asking for experience as opposed to simply knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like I'm hitting a barrier. So, and I don't know if I have even enough education. So I have advanced certificates in those areas and also in Excel. And I've been trying to get business analyst and data analyst jobs, and also business intelligence jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you recommend in terms of education? If I have enough already, or
See, you have picked up a correct role. Since you have worked as a financial analyst in the past, getting into either a data analyst or a business analyst is definitely a good choice of the role you have made. So you have 100 marks there. You have learned Python.
sorry, sorry, can I just interrupt? I'm actually a research analyst at a market research company.
Okay,
Yeah.
so market research, is it financial data or non-financial data?
It's
Anything,
a non-financial. Yeah, yeah,
anything. I mean, anything with the data is fine.
yeah.
Yes, your choice of data analyst or a business analyst is correct, 200%. And you're applying for jobs, you got certifications done and learning done in Udemy, but you're saying you're not able to get the job, or they're asking for a lot of past experience instead of the knowledge. These are the troubles you are facing. So from my perspective, from whatever you have explained, the choice of the role is not wrong. Whatever you have learned is not wrong, but seems like you might be uh, doing a little bit of mistakes when doing job search, or a little bit of mistakes when talking to them and explaining your profile to them quite convincingly. Those are some of the small mistakes and silly mistakes people do, which has a very high impact on the outcome. I mentored almost like how many? 84, 84, yeah, 94. I have mentored 94 people from non-IT background to go into IT, and many of these people are either from a medical background, or civil background, or a mechanical background, or some of the people like you who have worked as a research analyst or normal non-IT job. They are able to get into IT. So I think the fundamental problem might be in your resume, maybe, or in the way you are talking to the recruiters or the HRs, or in the way projecting your profile very effectively. These might be the problems, but otherwise, the track is right. But I think how you are running on the track might be need some corrections. Maybe you can feel free to schedule an appointment. Let me share the appointment link also. Like if you need a detailed, yeah, I have also given in this chat window an appointment link to schedule an appointment with me. So I'll be able to assess more in depth into where you are exactly going wrong. I can have a quick glimpse of your resume in that call, and then we can discuss in detail where you're going wrong, and possibly that might help you get a job faster.
Oh, sure. I would appreciate that. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ram Babu.
And by the way, guys, a lot of people have joined, but I see very less number of registrations. I'll pause for a couple of minutes there and give you time to fill the form and register. Can you once again, in the last link in the chat window in this meeting, go to that link and then register. I'll pause for a couple of minutes. Okay, let's move on with the questions. Who's next? Okay, Rahman.
Yeah, hi. So yeah, so let's yeah, assume we have picked up the technology. So like, what would you suggest, like how to start from the beginning? Like, since we don't have any experience in anything, so like, how do we start? Do we like go to Udemy or YouTube? Like, so what would you suggest on that?
Okay, so the right approach for people in non-IT background to go to IT is, number one, the first thing that you have to do is what is the exact role that you should be going into. That is the first choice you have to make, and you can make that choice by talking to experts. Um, if you need any help, you can also schedule an appointment. That is number one you have to do. And number two, based on that role, you have to identify which technologies that you have to ramp up your skill on. Identify the technologies. That is step number two. And step number three is take expert level training. When I say expert training, meaning take the formal training from a tutor. Okay, one of the biggest blunder people do is they will think that they can study by their own. No problem with that approach, but if there is an expert who is giving you a training, then that will have more impact than doing self-learning. So that is step number three. And step number four is, along with the training that is happening with the tutor, try to spend at least 2 to 3 hours of time on self-learning. Maybe pick up some Udemy tutorials, pick up some YouTube videos or LinkedIn learning videos. There is a internet is a bunch of a lot of content with IT trainings, free IT trainings. If you go to YouTube and search for IT trainings on QA, you will get a lot of stuff. So spend time in doing some self-learning. And number five, very, very important one, do a lot of hands-on practice. This is also one of the biggest mistake people do. People study and they will think that they have understood everything, but they don't necessarily do the hands-on practice. Only when you do hands-on practice, you will come up with lots of troubles. You will know how to solve the troubles. In the process of debugging and solving those issues, you will learn a lot of other things. And only when you do hands-on practice, you will be able to talk very confidently in the interview. But if you just study but don't do any hands-on practice, then you're making a big blunder. You can't pass the interviews. And also, I think I don't know whom I talked to in the past. I think one of the mistake that might happen is less hands-on practice also in previous case that we discussed. So hands-on practice is a must. And number six is understand how to project your profile. So having a very good resume and how you project yourself in that resume also plays 50% of the role, because the resume will help you get a call, and your knowledge, your training, your hands-on practice, your self-learning will help you get past the call and convert it into an interview and a job offer letter. So these are the 5 to 6 points that you should make: identifying the right role, identifying the technologies needed for that role, identifying the right tutor and getting formal training from the tutor, and then doing hands-on practice and doing self-learning in parallel, and having a very powerful resume. These are the things, bullet points that you should consider when making transitioning from a non-IT role to an IT role. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Ashish.
Yeah, Ashish.
As I asked you earlier, like about data engineering, like if I start from scratch, how many days it will take for me to learn the process?
So if you start from scratch, it will take, if you spend about 5 to 6 hours every day, it will take 2 months for you to get into the IT. I mean, to get the knowledge on the role that you have identified, and then minimum 2 months for jobs. So altogether, the best case time frame is 4 months from the time you start from zero till the time you get the job. The worst case depends on how well you prepare and how well you are clearing the interviews. So you have to plan this project as a minimum 4 months project. I have seen people, even if some of the people are very slow, they are getting it in less than 6 months. So the window is 4 to 6 months of the time. 4 months being the best case, and 6 months being the worst case.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So there was a question posted like, Ram Babu, can you please clear what is the goal of this session? Yeah, the goal of this session is to identify what roles and jobs in the Canadian IT market have less coding, which I have covered in the initial 15 minutes of the session, post which I am taking the questions. So are you providing training or placement or both? I provide both. So if you are interested, you can schedule the meeting. The meeting link I have shared the above, and we can talk in detail. Next question. If not, then we can go in a round robin way to pick up who has a question for each. Let's pick up Sushmita. Do you have any questions?
Actually, I'm from banking background, so I don't have any IT experience. I have 1 year experience in manual testing. So, what would you suggest for me?
Yeah. So if how many years of banking experience do you have?
4 years, 4 years.
4 years. So if we have a banking experience in the past, then the very good role for you to try is in Canada is a business analyst.
Okay,
In
okay,
Canada, most of the business analyst jobs are from the banking domain. All the banks hire people who have banking domain knowledge as business analysts.
okay,
So
okay. Yeah.
since you already have a banking domain knowledge, if you ramp up your skill on the topics related to the business analysis, then
Okay,
BA is a very right role for you.
okay, sure, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank.
Okay. Jason, I think Jason is a very familiar guy. He attended the previous webinar also. Is it the same Jason or a different one?
Yeah, same Jason sir. Hi sir, how are you?
Hi, good, good. So what is your question, Jason?
Sir, nowadays I see like for Salesforce, there is more like people, it's in demand, I feel. So what I was asking about Salesforce administration. Uh, so which are the tools we need to learn become a Salesforce administrator?
Yeah, to become a Salesforce administrator, the only tool you need to do is Salesforce. So that's it. You don't need to know any other tools. You need to have access to Salesforce. There is what is called as a trailheads. In trailheads, you can simulate the Salesforce environment and you can do a lot of hands-on practice. But otherwise, you don't need any other tool or technology that you should be knowing. Just learn Salesforce administration, but Salesforce has 4 components: Salesforce administration, Salesforce development, Salesforce BA, and Salesforce QA. Okay. So generally, if a person is exploring the Salesforce related jobs, then I advise that person to learn all the 4 components: Salesforce QA, Salesforce BA, Salesforce administration, and also development. The biggest blunder people do is they either will no, learn about Salesforce administration or Salesforce development, but they don't learn all the 4. The problem that happens is Salesforce is a very niche area. It is not like Salesforce will have hundreds and hundreds of jobs in Canada. There are very little number of jobs in Canada, but the competition is also very low. So due to that, the number of job to job seeker ratio is about 1 is to 20 or 30. So it is a very healthy competition that you can face. But if there are other roles like QA or BA, the competition is like 1 is to 300 kind of a competition. So compared to that, Salesforce has less competition and less number of jobs in the IT industry. But since there is less competition, the probability of you getting a job and the probability of getting the same job faster is very high, provided you learn all these 4: Salesforce administration, Salesforce development, Salesforce QA, and Salesforce BA. In all these 4, Salesforce uh, administration, Salesforce BA, and QA has very less coding, but Salesforce developer will have medium coding. So if you are able to quickly ramp up your skill on some coding expertise and become a Salesforce developer also, then the chances of you settling down in Salesforce industry is extremely high, and you can get good pay as well.
Sir, so if I'm like currently starting as a new starting to learn Salesforce, so how much time it might take, sir, like time frame?
Any IT job, if you are able to spend 5 to 6 hours every day, then you can learn the technology in 2 months of time. 1 hour of tutor based training, 2 to 3 hours of self learning, and 2 to 3 hours of hands on practice. If you do this every day, except weekends, of course, for 2 months, then you can gain a lot of confidence to face interviews. So, 2 months is what all you need to ramp up your skill on that.
Thank
Any
you, sir.
IT role, not just Salesforce, but for any IT role, it is the same. It is the learning methodology that should be getting a lot of priority than the time or the technology. Whether it's a DevOps or whether it's a QA or whether it is a data analyst, you need to spend 2 hours of, 2 months of time. Assuming you spend about 5 to 6 hours of time only in learning, getting training, and doing hands-on practice every day. Okay, let's go to Guljar. Any questions from you? Okay.
Hi,
Yeah,
Ramba.
Guljar. Hi.
No, not really as of now. But just yes, of course, I was listening to you. You mentioned that maybe a certification or a formal program is not required, but training will definitely help. So suppose if I am choosing one of the technologies, then would you also help in training in that technology? Getting trained in that technology is something, but I think while answering to other questions, you did respond to this. So
Yeah, I do. I do like we from NCPL consultancy offer training in almost all IT roles. Even if there is one person in that role, we still offer training in a one-on-one fashion. So whatever role you pick up, we have a training product for that.
okay, okay, thank you.
Zakira, go ahead.
Hi, Rambu. Again, actually, your words are very encouraging, but still just want to go back to what you have said. Like, if you are even slow, so you may get in the IT field in around 6 months. So, but most of the employers I have seen that, they are asking like experience and that too, particularly Canadian experience with 1 or 2 years at least. So, how can we fit in there?
Yeah, I'm planning a separate webinar on that, only this problem, but I can answer you in a very quick way. It is true that people, obviously, any company would like to hire somebody who has little bit of experience than a zero experience. So as I said, one of the key component of job search is how you are projecting uh, yourself when you are talking to the recruiters. Number one, powerful resume. Even with zero experience, create a very powerful resume with lots of projects you have done in the past, even though they're dummy projects. So putting some projects in your profile will really help the recruiter or the employer understand that you did work on something in the past, even though not with a solid experience. That is number one. Number two, you need to write a very professional, very good professional summary. Many people, don't concentrate on that. And number three, when you get calls from the recruiters, then you have to tell them that, hey, you have worked so and so in the past, and you're transitioning into IT, and this is the role you are trying to search, and tell them how you are a good fit for the role. I know these are all very easy to tell you, but only when you receive the call, it is very difficult, which is why I mentor a lot of people. These are the fundamental mistakes people make. Knowledge is not the criteria for job search. Let me tell you that. Um, the amount of knowledge you have in good technology is not the success criteria for getting a job. It contributes only to the 20%. But why we still rigorously get trained for 2 months? We get trained because the training will give us confidence to talk. So only for getting that confidence, we are doing the training and learning the technology. But once we have the confidence, when you talk to the recruiters or the interviewers, you will have very less of technical talk and more of non-technical talk. Um, and they don't generally see how much knowledge you have. They generally see how much are you a match for that role, based on which they will take a decision. So again, this is also one of the truths with the Canadian system, but it is not the same in other countries. But I'm talking very specific to Canadian side of the things. So if you need any specific mentoring on that, I'm very specialized in mentoring people who are having these kind of gaps. I'll be able to help you that. Feel free to schedule an appointment with me, and I can have a quick glimpse of where you are going wrong and can guide you. How can you get it corrected and get the job faster?
Thank you, Rambu.
Yeah.
I had an appointment with you.
And once again, people who have attended this webinar, please register in the form. I'm posting the form link again for the people who joined afresh. That way you can quickly open the form and register. Yes, Saraj?
Yes, I just had a final question. For data analyst, I think that's the one you had said for people coming from healthcare background. What would be the starting salary getting in?
For a data analyst, I have seen the salary range is between 60K and 80K for a full-time job. Junior level, when I say 60 to 80K, it is for junior level, meaning 0 years to 2 years of experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say that, that's the gross, not the net, right?
That's the gross, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But once you become a senior, then it will slightly increase. But for a junior role, this is a salary range.
Thank you.
Any final question from anybody? We have 1 more minute left. Again, let me summarize some of the roles which has less coding in IT industry in Canadian market are business analyst, data analyst, data engineering, QA, Salesforce administration and development, and we have DevOps, we have cloud engineering, either AWS or Azure, and we have cyber security engineering, which has less number of coding. We have project coordinator roles, project assistant roles, and what else? UI UX developer. Yeah, those are the only roles which has very less coding. There is also one role which is called as a technical writer. If somebody is very passionate about technical writing, that is also one of the IT role that you can pursue. That also has very less to zero coding in the IT industry, and it's also very good, well-paid job. That also you can explore. Yeah, Tausif.
Hello, yes. I just have a quick question. For the UI UX jobs, is it like easier to get the UI UX ones rather than the other ones? Because we have a lot of UI UX roles, right, in a company.
Yeah, I have seen people getting a lot of UI UX jobs also. It has less coding. You just need to understand UI UX concepts. You need to understand and get some hands-on practice on some of the wireframing tools and prototyping tools. And on top of that, you need to know less coding related to HTML, HTML5, and JavaScript. Those are also needed. People think that if it is UI UX, it just they don't have any coding, but only hardcore UI UX is not going to be sufficient. You need to learn a little bit of coding when it comes to the front-end development also. So projecting you as a UI UX developer or a front-end developer would be a more successful combination than projecting yourself only as a UI UX developer.
Okay. One more thing. For the JavaScript part, which one would you do you think is the best, like the React or the AngularJS?
React.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Syed. Okay, I think Said is not responding. I think we are done with the time. So
Hello?
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
my mistake.
Okay.
So you said something really interesting at the end about the technical writer role, and I think I would be interested in exploring that. I booked a meeting with you on Monday for 4
Mhm.
already. But like, what education would I need for, or like, what would I need to do to enter technical writing?
No, you don't need any education. I mean, you need to have any bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Bachelor's degree is a common criteria or a pre-qualification for any IT job. Not necessarily bachelor's degree in IT, but any non-IT also. And you need to learn technical writing skills. So if you have some writing skills, then you need to uh, get quickly trained on technical writing, some of the tools involved, and then that's it. You can start searching for the job.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have a meeting booked with you at 4 for Monday, so I guess we can talk about that as well, right?
Yeah. So once again, so I'm giving you the link in this chat window. Again, this chat will go as soon as we close the meeting. So if you want to save this message, you can save it, and also please register for the webinar in the form that I gave above. And we can, if anybody would like to book an appointment, you can book an appointment in the link I gave you, and we can have a detailed 30 minutes discussion. I can understand your case better, and if you have any specific advice that you want, I can give you that. And if you need any help from my business also, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I think we are done for the day. Let's meet in the next week webinar with a different topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ram.